Welcome everybody. This is the Maryland Delaware Master Logger Program 2024 Continuing Education Credits Recorded Sessions. This is CEC Session 3, recording 1 of 2. There'll be a second recording that you'll find on the YouTube channel that you will also have to watch before you take the quiz. This is the required university disclaimer guaranteeing your rights with regard to this program. Pursuant to Department of Agriculture, these are instructions to file a program discrimination complaint. And we'll go over some instructions for this series. There are 2 separate videos in this segment. This is recording 1 of 2 in the playlist. The second recording is courtesy of Kenton Sumter of Maryland Department of Agriculture, who was kind enough to put together an exclusive video for the Master Logger program titled SLF Regulatory Update 2023. It's next in this playlist. Please watch both recordings before completing the CEC Recorded Session quiz at the end of watching all of the recordings in this CEC session series. Please direct any questions or problems to me at the email address below or to Taylor Robinson. This session we will be discussing invasive species and explaining briefly why invasive species are a problem. We will go over 2 specific invasive species. Beech leaf disease is a new disease in Maryland and Delaware that we ask you to watch out for. The second invasive we will discuss is spotted lanternfly, and it has a regulatory quarantine that you should be aware of. Invasive species are non-native species, be they animal, plant, microbe, fungi, etc., that displace native species to the detriment of the environment. So invasive species can have a dramatic effect on forest health. For example, Chinese wisteria in the forest. Down on the lower shore, when I was a forester down there, I witnessed one area that Chinese wisteria had dominated and taken over up to 2 acres of the forest and was actually going in and killing loblolly pine trees by strangling them. It was unreal, to say the least. They are typically spread through human activity without intent. So a lot of the times it's inadvertent. We bring species in without knowing that they'll have an impact on the native plant environment. Sometimes that can be as innocent as planting exotic species in the garden, not realizing that it's going to take over the neighborhood and the entire region, or when we bring in pallets made from foreign material that have bugs infested inside of them, such as emerald ash borer, which then allows the bug to come into our forest and kill upwards of hundreds of millions of trees across the northeastern United States. Invasives, you have to understand, have evolved in the absence of their host that they're living on in this country. So there's no pests of their own to control the invasives. Some scientists have introduced biological controls, of the pests that are pests to the invasives. However, those type of practices are not widespread and are usually done on a target basis. And also it takes some time for biological controls to actually stick around and reproduce on their own. So it can take some time for that type of evolution to happen, if it's going to happen. Again, because you're bringing in more species that are not native to this country and may not have the resources that they need to live on. But regardless, the idea here is that the invasive species are here. The plants have not evolved their own defenses against them, and that's one of the reasons why that they are so invasive. And now we're going to go over one of the more recent threats to our environment. It's an emerging threat known as beech leaf disease. We're not exactly 100% sure where beech leaf disease originated from. However, there is a species of nematode, which is native to Japan, that is similar to the nematode that impacts beech trees here in this country. But the beech are affected by a nematode that's actually a subspecies of that species from Japan. So they think at some point in time that the nematode must have evolved along the way. So beech leaf disease is a foliar disease. It affects all species of beech, including our native beech, Fagus grandifolia. It's caused by a non-native nematode, Lidolencus crenati McCaney, as you see in the upper right-hand corner. It's this little nematode. It's a microscopic worm that you wouldn't be able to see with your unaided eye. It was detected in 2023 in Maryland. Prior to this presentation, when I gave the presentation in 2023 in the spring, this species had not yet been identified here in the state of Maryland. However, it was confirmed within the past year. It looks like it's being spread by the wind, but it could also conceivably be spread through anything that the nematode can hitch a ride on, such as insects and birds possibly. But the consensus right now from scientists is that it is being spread through the wind. Here we have a map of the impact, and this is actually updated since I did this presentation in the spring of 2023. I just pulled this map. This is an updated map for 2024. It's dated December of 2023. These are all the counties that are reporting where beech leaf disease is being reported. As you can see, very interesting area in central Maryland seems to be less impacted, but that also could very well be the urban corridor. However, if you do notice, it looks like Washington, D.C. actually is coming up positive as well. Surprisingly, there's none reported yet down on the lower shore or the eastern shore of Maryland and Delaware. Up in northern Delaware, and it looks like up by Cecil County, there appears to be some reported up there. We had anticipated that looking at the map from 2023, it was not showing up in Maryland. So we had sent out flyers and given some training to live in person CEC training to be able to recognize and look for beech leaf disease, since the loggers are always in the forest. And it appears as though those efforts have paid out because, again, it does look like beech leaf disease is actually now in Maryland and spreading. It was originally reported out in Ohio, and that's the dark area that you can see just south of Lake Erie. That's where it was originally reported. And if it is actually being spread by the wind, then it does make sense because prevailing winds do blow out of the west, southwest, and you can see the spread going all the way up from Ohio across Pennsylvania and New York and into New England, southern New England, and into Maine. So this is what you're looking for in the forest. The symptoms of beech leaf disease, basically, the leaves themselves, they get this darkening between the veins of the leaf. If this is the veins of the leaf, then you can see the areas where it actually is getting darker. What that is that's where the nematode has actually been living and is actually changing the composition of the leaf so that it's not photosynthesizing, which is why the leaf color changes that way. It's actually changing the structure of the leaf. And eventually what you get is you get this darkening brown where the leaf is actually dying. They call that necropsis. And also you can see that image on the right. You get some waviness in the leaves. This is basically telltale signs of beech leaf disease. The best way to see the damage from beech leaf disease from the nematode is to be looking up into the forest canopy. That's the best way to see it, because then the symptoms are actually sticking out like a sore thumb when you see them from underneath. The first trees affected are usually understory trees and seedlings, saplings, and then mature trees seem to be holding off and are affected later. So we were mentioning before about pests that co-evolve with species, and these are lookalikes of beech leaf disease. The three photos to the left: Erinium patch, anthracnose, and beech leaf rolling aphid. The Erinium patch, I believe, is caused by a mite. The anthracnose is caused by a fungus or a phytophthora, one or the other. And beech leaf rolling aphid is caused by an insect that's an aphid, and it rolls up the leaf to protect itself while it's eating the leaves. Now, none of these on their own has a dramatic effect on beech tree health. These have all co-evolved with the species, and again, they are held in control by one means or another, either by the tree sending out its own defensive responses, or there could be native insects that take advantage of what is eating on the beech leaf itself. So again, they've co-evolved with each other, and it doesn't actually have an impact. That's not the same with the nematode with beech leaf disease. It has no known enemies here that would take advantage of it. And you can see on the right the difference between the beech leaf disease and these other species. it's that vein darkening that really makes it stand out from the others. And again, the purpose of telling you all this is just to bring it to your attention to keep an eye open for it in the forest and to report it when you see it. So what do you do to prevent beech leaf disease from getting around? Avoid spreading the leaves, twigs, soil, and branches, and seedlings, and similar material from areas that have known infections of beech leaf disease. That's the best way for us to prevent spreading it into areas that are not impacted. Originally, we had guidance to disinfect footwear where you were in infected stands because the consensus was that nematodes, believe it or not, nematodes naturally live by the millions in the ground naturally, but they're all different types of species, you understand. So the thought was that it would be spread around as people were walking around. But like I said earlier in this presentation, the consensus is it's actually being spread by the wind. So report any findings to Maryland Department of Ag at the telephone number below or by the email on this screen. So now we get to spotted lanternfly, Lycorma delicatula. Spotted lanternfly was first detected in Pennsylvania in 2014, and since that time has spread to most of the states in the northeastern United States. It feeds on the sap of over 70 different plant species and counting. In particular, it favors hops, grapes, tree of heaven, black walnut, and maples. Picture of it on the upper right with its with its wings spread out. If you see it, report it. If you observe any egg masses or insects which look similar to this, please try to collect them and inform the Maryland Department of Agriculture at the number below, or you can use their email address, don'tbug.md@maryland.gov, and you can notify the Department of Agriculture as soon as possible. And here I've set up some links so that you can find more information on this issue. With regard to spotted lanternfly, there is a quarantine in effect in areas of the states that are affected by spotted lanternfly. As we explained before, invasives are spread by human activity for the most part. So we're making sure that we're doing our part to be good stewards and to not spread this invasive species in the areas where it is not found by means of firewood, anything that may be stuck on your trailers or equipment and such. So it's just a good idea to be proactive and to look for this stuff and do the best that you can to try to prevent this from being spread into other areas. That's all it's being asked of you. But there are laws in effect that govern what's to be done, and you could be cited by Maryland Department of Agriculture if you're not following these procedures. But the bottom line is just do the best that you can to try to prevent the spread of this invasive species to other areas. That's all that's being asked of you. Again, so number one has more information on the quarantine itself for Maryland. Number two is more information on spotted lanternfly. And number three gives you a link to Penn State Extension, where you can get the permit training that's required. And this is for free. So it only takes a couple of minutes, and it shouldn't take too much of your time. It's definitely worthwhile to do because, again, it's free. As we're coming to the conclusion of this portion of the video series session, I'd like to introduce the presentation by Kenton Sumter. He's an entomologist for Maryland Department of Agriculture and did the spotted lanternfly quarantine update for you. It's the second video in this playlist. You should be able to find it on the information that was provided in the earlier part of this session. And this is just simply a list of references that were utilized for this presentation today. This is the last slide of this series. Please continue to watch the following video in this playlist, SLF Regulatory Update 2023. It should be the next video in the playlist. If you do not find it in the playlist, please look for SLF Regulatory Update 2023 on the Master Logger Program YouTube channel. At the end of watching the Session 3 videos, please continue to watch the Session 4 videos. When you're finished watching all the videos in the series, there will be a quiz that you need to complete that will cover the learning for all the videos and give you credit for watching all of the video series. There are 4 CEC credits available when completing this quiz. You can find more information on the information that was sent to you via email. Please direct any questions or problems to me at the email address on the bottom of the screen or to Taylor Robinson. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the presentation from Maryland Department of Agriculture's Kenton Sumter on SLF Regulatory Update 2023. Thank you.